You're listening to The Collected Podcast, bringing you stories that remind us who God is and who we are in Him. The Collected Podcast is a production of Collected Ministries. Follow Collected on social media at Collected Podcast, and be sure to visit thecollectedpodcast.com for show notes and additional content related to today's episode.
Welcome to Season 5, Episode 2 of the Collected Podcast. I'm your host, Jess Biondo, and I am so excited for the conversation that we have ahead of us. Before we dive into that, though, I just want to give a quick reminder that as we come up on the end of the year, and as you may be thinking about year-end gifts, just to ask you to consider Collected Ministries. I love being able to do the podcast, and we have such faithful supporters, and I'm just eternally grateful that you not only give of your time to listen, but when you give financial support, it means the world and it keeps the sound on over here at Collected Ministries. So if you're interested in giving, any gift amount is such a blessing to us. So you can go to collectedministries.org/donate if you just feel led to do that. So now that that's out of the way, without further ado, I'm very excited about our guest today. His name is Steve Motyl, and he is a certified professional life coach, and he works with an organization called Freedom Coaching. And I'm so excited for him to share more about that and just about his own personal journey with the Lord. So Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. What a joy and a gift you are. I've known you 5 minutes now, and you're already one of my favorite people. So thanks for having me on.
You're too kind. Before we get started talking about freedom coaching and some of that, I was wondering if you could share by just letting us know how you got to know the Lord and a little bit of the journey you've been on with Him.
Wow. That's a great question. It's just not something you think about often. You just sort of are on the journey and you don't take time to look back very often. And that's why it is good to do that from time to time, though, because that strengthens us for the road ahead, right? We can look back and we can see all the times that the Lord has brought us through trials and challenges, and we thought we weren't going to make it. And yet by His grace, we make it. And we're like, okay, if I stay close to Him, I can get through this next storm too, right? I think a lot of men, definitely myself, I identify so much with Peter, because here he was with the Lord, he knew everything, I'm not being critical of him, because I know it's still difficult, but there you are right with the Lord, living with the Lord, seeing miracle day in and day out, having your whole life converted and changed. He changed his name, for goodness sake. I mean, what a conversion, right? And yet then he's still, even with the foreshadowing of Jesus saying he's going to deny him and him having the ability to prepare for that and maybe overcome, he still falls and denies him, right? And then, but even more so, the whole scene of Jesus calling him out into the water. We've all had that moment where the Lord is calling us out of the boat. And you're like so excited, so exhilarating. Oh my gosh, I'm standing on the water. This is amazing. And then reality comes back in and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm standing on water, and you start to sink. But our Lord is so good. There's no condemnation from Him. I could just imagine Him just, Peter's sinking and He says, you have little faith, but I don't hear that as a condemnation. I hear that as an invitation, like there's always more, just trust more, come closer, and Peter has to reach his hand up, because the Lord's not going to force him to come to Him. But once he reached his hand up, the Lord grabs his hand and pulls him back up. And boy, I've had that experience many times, and I'm sure you have, and some of our listeners too have. But I grew up in a Christian home. My parents were very faithful. They got married so young. It's unheard of these days. They got married at 21 and 19. Oh, yeah. My mom had me when she was 21. So she became a very young mom and became a very young grandma. In fact, I think my wife and I made her a grandma before she even hit 50.
Wow.
So it was amazing. But they also went through a bit of a conversion themselves. Some of our listeners might be familiar with something called the charismatic renewal. That would kind of came through the church and it just called people into a deeper relationship with the Holy Spirit and and allowing the Holy Spirit to animate your life more. And so when we were kids, My parents got swept up in this, and I look back and joke and say that's when me and my sisters became prayer meeting orphans, because my mom and dad were running off to all these prayer meetings, but it ended up being so good. It strengthened their marriage and all that. And then what we didn't know, again, they were so young, but my dad ended up getting cancer and dying at the age of 41, like so very young. So he was 41. My mom was a widow with 3 kids at the age of 38. So I was 17. My 2 sisters were 14 and 9. So my mom, just because of her faith in the Lord, I mean, there's no other explanation how we got through that, And I think when families go through a trauma like that, they either get torn apart or they come closer together. And I think a lot of that really depends on their faith, the foundation of which they're built on, right? And so because my parents had laid that foundation and my mom was so faithful, we were able to lean in on him and lean on each other. And it strengthened us for the journey. And I think that really sustained me even through life when I got a little bit older, when I went to college. I think my 4.5 years of college, I think I missed, church maybe 4 times. Not that I was a super faithful Christian through those years, but there was something in me that just kept me, I need this. I don't even know why, but I know I need it. And I can't imagine walking away from it. I feel for and identify with people who lose their faith in college, but I just could never imagine allowing it to happen to me. So yeah, through that, I got involved with just with some young adult ministries and things like that. And then when I graduated school, I just felt the Lord calling me into just deeper relationship. He totally unexpectedly gave me an opportunity to do youth ministry. So I got involved with working with teens and middle school, kids, adolescents, and I did that for so many, many years, 15, 20 years. And you know what it's like when you're serving others in the faith, you're growing, obviously, because you're experiencing it right along with them. And so that just continued my journey. So there wasn't like necessarily one moment or another moment where with profound conversion. I've had many moments of conversion though, and reversion. I feel like just different experiences with the Lord where he just takes you deeper. And I'm so much older than you, so I've experienced this probably a lot more than you have. But you get to a point where you start thinking like, I guess this is it. Like it's probably as far as I'm going to go. And then the Lord's like, no, there's more. Come on, I got more for you. And like, really, Lord? I thought we already dealt with that wound or that thing or that whatever. And now I'm kind of in a comfort zone here, if you don't mind. And you want to stretch me again. And then I'm back to Peter being called out of the boat again. And so that's the journey though, right? That's what makes it so real.
Yeah. What would you say are some ways that God has shown up for you in your life that were different than you expected?
Yeah, those moments of profound being called out of the boat. So my wife and my wife is a very rare breed in the fact that I was born in North New Jersey. My dad moved us down to Florida when I was 12. And nobody my age was born in Florida. Everybody like moves in from someplace else, right? Except my wife. My wife was actually born in Clearwater, Florida. And so all 5 our girls were born there. We raised our family there. So we have all of our family had been down there. And the Lord unexpectedly called us to a new job. I was given this opportunity to work for a large Catholic publishing company in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, which is in Southeast Pennsylvania. And I'm like, okay, I can feel the Lord is making this so clear, but we have to leave everything. Like everything and everyone was familiar to us.
Yeah.
We're going somewhere where nothing and no one is. And there's no way to describe that except for, God's grace, because the fear grips you and you're like, how is this going to work? And that's the thing we fear, right, is the unknown.
Yeah.
We might get excited about the unknown because we think it's going to be a cool experience, but then let's like, wait a minute. What if it's not a cool experience? What if it's really bad? What if the Lord's really not going to bless? What if he's really not a good God and this is not going to be a good thing, or he's come through so many times, but what if there's that one time he's not going to come through for me? All these fears. And that's why, like, when you ask me to reflect back, that's why it's important to reflect and say, wait a minute, he's brought me through all. So when he called me, I literally, the night before, I had to sort of give my yes or my no to taking this new position. I have never in my life clearly heard the Lord that clear in my heart. Like so the whole boat thing, right? I remember telling the Lord that night before, Lord, it'll be so much easier, to get out of this boat if I had another boat to get into. And I heard him, and that's right? Like sometimes if he's calling us out of something, we don't really know exactly where we're going yet. Then we're on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And we're waiting for him to show us what's next. That is vulnerability and trust.
Yeah.
At its most raw. When I said to him in my prayer, Lord, it'd be so much, you're calling me out of this boat, out of Florida, out of this job. It'd be so much easier to get out of this boat if I knew what boat and I heard him say in my heart, but then you'd have no reason to trust me. And I about fell over. I mean, I was like, okay, all right, Lord. Yes, Lord. I'm saying yes. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying yes to, but I know who I'm saying yes to. I'm saying yes to you, and I'm trusting. And then the Lord comes through, and let me just say, this is how I know God exists, because I have these moments in my life where I'm struggling to trust, and then I finally I scream, I cry, I pound on his chest, I whine and complain, and then he comes through every time. And then I say to him, okay, Lord, I promise next time I'll trust you. And then I can hear him doing exactly what you're doing. I can hear him laughing at me. Yeah, that's how I know he's real. But it's the gentle laughter of a father, who, not condemnation, just like, okay, we'll see. We'll see.
It's like, well, I know you won't, but I love you anyway.
Right, exactly. But it's really a prayer for more trust, But I used to think, am I the only Christian who struggles with trust? Right? And it's like, no, this is extremely, this is universal. This is like, we're all struggling. And that's why he knows, that's why he's so gentle and patient with us, because we're all on an individual, unique journey with him, where we're coming to trust in our identity as his son or daughter, and to trust in his providence as our father.
Yeah.
And those are the most beautiful, most profound, mind-blowing realities that I wish I could live every moment of my day out of those truths. But it's an ongoing struggle. We forget, and we start, the fear sets in or whatever, but we got to remember we're living out of those two realities.
Yeah. So I know you made the move. You gave the yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So what has happened next? Like, how did God continue to provide and show up?
See, this is the thing. You say yes to one thing, but again, I've lived long enough to know that that's probably not the last thing he's going to ask me to say yes to.
Yeah. Because now you have to live in the winter.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Well, that's funny. I didn't share that part, but you're right. So my wife, again, born in Florida, for whatever reason, we always had this like desire to raise our kids in 4 seasons.
Okay.
And so again, I don't know if the Lord put that desire in our hearts because he knew years later he'd be calling us to Pennsylvania, or he just grant the desires of our hearts. But who knows, right? You just don't know. But that is regardless. If we are doing what we can to be faithful and stay close to him and seek after his will, eventually over time, our desires and his desires for us start to sync up, and those are beautiful moments, when you realize, wow, I really feel like I am like in his will in this moment.
Yeah.
What I want, what I have longed for myself and what he has longed for me are coming together in this moment. And it's a beautiful experience of unity with him. But I said yes to that, and that was a beautiful ride. I met so many people, did so much great work, and through that, I just met other people, and then the Lord, calls me on to something else, and all of a sudden, that's a long story that I don't need to bore you with here. But the short version is that unexpectedly, he called me into coaching, and so about a couple years ago, I started making a run at following him into making my full-time work in coaching. And I love that, because in the other space I was working in the publishing world, I was responsible for producing large programs like Bible studies and programs for teens, and they were for large groups, and that's good. That has their place.
Yeah. But
now he's called me into the one-on-one relationship, the call it coaching, mentoring. To me, it's discipleship. I'm entering a person's life as much as they will invite me in, and then walking with them, And to me, it's like, that's where the real magic is, like that one-on-one encounter with a person, and just come alongside them. So that's what I'm doing now.
And freedom coaching, I feel like has a very kind of specific heart behind it. So could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So that's not the coaching I expected to get into. My wife and I, like I said, we do a lot of marriage prep. We're always preparing couples for marriage. We do some marriage coaching, and I was looking more to be more of a like a fun sort of coach. Like let's do the fun topics. It's fun preparing couples for marriage. And then I met this man named Steve Picorni through my coaching, just knocking on doors and coaching, networking, and all that. He started this amazing ministry called Freedom Coaching. And it is all about entering into a person's life, a man or a woman who is for lack of a better expression, is just addicted to pornography, and it's wrecking their lives. It's wrecking their lives, their marriages, their work. And this person has gotten themselves to a place where they're finally ready to put this down, and they need help, And so Steve said to me one day, that the sad but true, the ministry was growing, and he just couldn't. There's more clients that he could coach. I think he had one or two coaches with him at the time, and he just asked if I'd be interested in being trained. And I was like, no, that sounds way too heavy. I mean, I know it's a real issue. Thanks be to God. That's, that was not my personal struggle. But I understand the struggle. I understand the realities of it and the ramifications of it. And he just asked me to pray about it. And when someone asks me to pray about something, I already kind of have a sense of where it's going. So I prayed about it, talked to my wife about it. And I'm like, okay, we'll try it. And I love it. I love it. Again, you say yes. This is the other thing what the Lord will do, right? You'll say yes to him, even if you're not sure you want to say yes. And then he will surprise you. It'll be more beautiful than you expected. So from the get-go, I have loved the work. I love my clients, love these men, love them. And they're beautiful because they're, you know what? We're all broken, right? But people who acknowledge, recognize, and humility, like they have the humility to recognize their brokenness and to be able to ask for help, the Lord just rushes in. He rushes in. And then for me to be able to be an instrument of that, and to be able to all day, every day, watch lives be transformed, and then by their extension, their marriages be transformed. And it's incredible. And I get to see the fruit in real time.
Yeah.
It's a real privilege.
If someone is listening and, hearing what you're saying, and like that is their struggle and they're just deep in it. Yeah. What are their first steps, or what kind of hope, or maybe I know, it's longer than just like a quick little encouragement.
I wish I could just give somebody the silver bullet or take this pill, or maybe sprinkle some fairy dust or something, but everything in the if it's going to be authentic, everything in the Christian walk is going to take a little time. Right. So I've been in the space, the Christian and Catholic space for a long time, developing programs, seeing programs develop. I have truly never seen anything like this. It is because it unlike a 12-step program or other things that have good marriage to them. This is a whole person approach. Like, we understand that the person they want to quit the porn. We get that, but we also understand there's so much more going on. Like there's root reasons why the person is turning to the porn. There are probably unhealed, unchecked wounds in the past, and other things going on in their life right now that keeps driving them to the porn. So the Lord is not interested in just breaking off the weed at the ground level. Like, he wants to get to the root, right? Yeah. And this is why our clients find not just freedom in the short term, but they learn to walk and live in freedom. And that's what this is all about too. And I love being able to tell these guys, hey, I know we all kind of have this I don't know where we get it from, but we just pick up this notion that the Lord is saying to you, hey, Bob, as soon as you quit that porn, I will love you and you can be my son. And I'm like, no, we have this all backwards. The Lord is saying to you, Bob, that because I already love you unconditionally, and because you are my son, I want you to be free from this and every unhealthy earthly attachment, so that you can be attached to me alone. And then you can live the fullness of the life that I have planned for you. So we flip it on their heads right away. This is not about us cleaning ourselves off before we go to the Lord. The Lord says, no, it's my job to clean you off. Your job is to come to me and let me clean you off. I mean, one of my favorite scripture passages from Paul, I think it's in Romans. He says, God proves his love in so much that while we were still sinners, he died on the cross for us. Like, he didn't wait for us to not be sinners anymore. He's dying on the cross because we need this, so he wants to do this for us. He wants us to respond and invite him in. And so there's great hope. So it's freedom-coaching.net. Beautiful information there. You can peruse that. You can look at myself or other coaches there. There's a form to fill out. We'd be honored. In fact, I would be honored to just go out on a limb right now and say that if any of your listeners, again, we have a beautiful female coach as well, for female clients. So if any of your listeners, or if for them personally, or if they know somebody, if they just mention that they found out about us from you, we'll give them the first session for free. And it's not an information session. It's like a legit first session.
Okay.
We'll give them that for free. And but then they'll learn more about what's in store for them. But the journey is beautiful. You'll have a personal coach. Yes, I'm a coach, but I'm like a cheerleader. I become my clients' biggest fans, supporting, praying for them, praying with them, and helping them journey, up that mountain of beautiful sexual integrity and freedom. And where the air is clear and the vision the vistas are wide, and you come to see people already. I think we all already have a sense of who we are at our best. But we know stuff like porn or other unhealthy attachments kind of hold us back from being the best version of ourselves. And as we get free of this, it's not like we become a different person. We just become who we are. We become who the Lord already created and called us to be. We just lose sight of that because of these attachments. So as we break free of them, the sky's the limit. It's just great.
Oh, that's amazing. And I just want any listener out there who feels so like burdened by the weight of a sin or a pattern or an unhealthy addiction, whether it's porn or something else. I think this applies to anything we struggle with, because everybody has something. Like, first, I want you to hear what Steve said, that you don't have to be free of that before the Lord loves you. He's already in it with you. He loves you. He already died for you while he knew that you were going to do that.
Amen.
And then also that there's hope for freedom. Like, the Lord is for you and fighting on your behalf and rooting for you to live fully who you were created to be. That's well good. Said. That's well so good.
Said. Yeah, I know you're recording this. I'm going to use that for a Freedom Coaching commercial. I'm just kidding. No, you're
sure.
But you captured. No, and I'm obviously teasing, but my point really is that you captured beautifully the essence of what we're doing and how we approach our clients, and just like the Lord has he does not come to condemn. He says, I did not. There's no condemnation. There's no judgment. We're in we have, like you just said, we all have our own stuff we're working on. We all have our own messes. So this is not I'll tell my clients, if I feel like I need to, if you feel like you have to, if you feel like you're trying to impress me, I have failed you. This is, because I am in this with you. We are in this together. I don't hold back. Let's bring all of your brokenness. Let's bring it into the light so the Lord can do what the Lord does, which is rush in and heal and redeem and set free, so that you can be that person and live that life that you're longing for. And so, there's great hope here, but it's real. It works. Again, I get to see this happen day in and day out. So I know it's working, and our clients are finding their freedom. But when the Son sets you free, you're free indeed, right? And so they understandably, they often think that this is their issue. They just want to get free of this, but they start seeing other areas being freed up. They, like, if they're married and they're a father, they see this having because the porn is it's all a fantasy. So it will by nature negatively affect our reality. So if a man or a woman is spending a lot of time looking at porn, that's forming, shaping their minds, their vision, and their hearts. So when they come back into the real world, it is negatively affecting the way they're approaching their spouse or kids or coworkers. So again, the good news is that as you get free of that, then it's positively impacting your relationships in reality.
Yeah.
And so it bears beautiful fruit. I will say with, I think this is still true. Our like our wives, the guys' wives, they end up not leaving, even though sometimes the guys will show up and say, I got my marriage is on the brink. If I don't get this cleaned up, my wife's, I'm in the guest room, I'm on the couch, whatever. And, but as we go through the process, I think the wife starts to see her husband restored and return to her. And that gives her great hope and faith to continue the marriage with him. And that's a beautiful testament. So instead of a marriage failing, a marriage now thrives and becomes life-giving.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so good. So along those lines, you said you initially started out doing some more like premarital counseling type of things, and now you're seeing marriages transformed. I was wondering, excuse me, oh, frog in my throat. If you could give like a word of advice or hope or encouragement for people in like each different season of relationships. So maybe like the single person, the dating couple, the married and thriving couple, and then the married and struggling couple.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So the single couple, you said first, right?
Or
so
the single person maybe who longs to be in a relationship.
Right. And I know many, and my heart aches for them, because I understand. I feel the Lord's given me a gift of empathy, but this is one area like I can't personally identify with, because I met my wife. Well, I met a woman and I knew I wanted to marry her before I even knew I wanted to get married, so that was a blessing for me. What I mean? Like I wasn't in that season where I was longing for a wife and then met her. I met her and then went, oh my gosh, I want to marry this woman, so my heart breaks for those who don't have that, who long for marriage and don't have that. And I don't mean any of this advice to be trite, because I know the struggles are real, but there's practical things. I mean, your single season, we need to try to look at it as an opportunity. What is the Lord saying in me, in my singlehood? Maybe I'm single because the Lord is preparing me for marriage, and if I don't sit still long enough for him to prepare me, I'm going to just keep delaying my opportunity to get married, because he's waiting on me to draw closer to him, to work on my relationship with him. Listen, we all know that it's easier, I put that in quotes, easier, because I get it's not easy to work on your relationship with the Lord when you are single. When when you're married, you have kids, you get busy with that, you got to keep maintaining that relationship with him, but you have more time when you're single. So use it to your advantage. Work on your relationship with him, and then make sure you're putting yourself in a place where you can be found, by him and by others too, right? So I used to not be a fan of, and this is all personal, so I'm not giving advice here, but I used to not be a fan of dating apps, but I'm like, they work. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. In fact, my oldest daughter met her fiance on, and they would have never met. They would have never met. They lived 30 minutes from each other. They would have never. Can't imagine their paths ever crossing. So use every means that you have available to you. But while you're doing that, you work the plan. You do what you can. But you also want to keep surrendering to the Lord. It's an opportunity for you to work on your relationship with him, but also allowing him to work on what he wants to do in your own heart. Maybe there are wounds that he wants to heal. Maybe there are traumas that he wants to help you work through to prepare you better when you meet the one, right?
Yeah.
And then once couples are dating, I mean, you have to be honest with, because once you start dating, you only have two options. It's only going to end. It's either going to end in marriage or a breakup, right? So be open to both. And this is the thing, when we are on
or you just journey, date forever.
Yeah, I don't recommend that. Definitely don't, because you have to, but you want to be detached from the outcome. because you don't know where the Lord's taking this. You don't want to get too attached to this guy or this woman too quickly. You want to get to know them, pay attention to what, I've taught my girls this. Obviously, this is not, I didn't make this up, and it's not rocket science, but the flags. Red flags are non-negotiables. This guy's already married. Well, that's a red flag, but yellow flags. I'm starting to notice like a little bit of a temper, or I'm starting to notice that when we go out to drink, he has maybe one or two, too many. We go out to dinner, he has one or too many drinks, maybe, those sort of things. Pay attention to that, because, that's something I have to now work through. Like, could that become a red flag? And we need to see if he's willing to work on this. And if he's not willing to work on it, well, then it becomes a red flag. And then you got to get out. So be open to that. Now, this is going to sound super old fashioned, but the absolute best advice I could give is do not have sex. Do not have sex with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Because I know you don't have time for this, but there are not just theological reasons. There are biological and scientific reasons. Chemical reactions get set off when we have sex with a person. And if that person is not our spouse, we are being bonded to someone who's not our spouse. And there's beautiful chemicals that happen in a healthy marriage that we start to overlook some of the nitpicky things, which is a good thing if you're married. But the chemicals will cloud your ability to discern if this is the right person for me.
Yeah.
You literally will neuter your discernment process if you're having sex with your boyfriend or girlfriend. So I could talk about that for a long time, but that's just don't, because you want to give yourself the opportunity for clear discernment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me so then engaged couples or married couples or?
Yeah. What about I was seeing a marriage that's thriving. They're in a great place.
Yeah.
And then a marriage that they feel like they're struggling or walking through a really challenging season.
Yeah. And most of our marriages are going to have a little bit of both from time to time,
sure.
right? We're going to experience all of this. And that's the thing too. Like we tell the engaged couples, the altar is not the finish line. That's the starting gate. You're just starting this. You again, just like we think about the Christian walk, we got to clean ourselves off. Sometimes couples think they got to get all this stuff figured out before they get to the altar. No, marriage is for a lot of that. You do the best you can to address the big things before you get to the altar. But then in marriage, you're going to be in the process of becoming perfected as a person, but also now you are playing an instrumental role in helping your spouse in that process of perfection, right? Mm-hmm. So our job is not to make a project out of our spouse. We don't want to turn our spouse into ourselves. We don't want to marry ourselves. We want to make sure that we are helping our spouse foster their God-given gifts and talents and dreams and desires, and doing all we can. So the short thing in a marriage, right? We really are the main goal of a marriage, a good Christian marriage, is to help the other person get to heaven, help them make that journey.
Yeah.
And in the process, though, we're called to help the other person become everything that they've been created and called to become. And we do that in a way that's so unique. We're called to do that on some level in all relationships, but it goes to unconditional depths and heights in a marriage. So whether you're struggling or not struggling, again, I know it sounds so trite and basic, but my goodness, I always ask couples, so tell me what your prayer life is like. Tell me how do you guys pray together? And then you get the blank stare. Because we're not praying together, maybe we're praying a little grace at meals or something like that. Okay, we need to dig deep. We need to start with that. The three of you, the two of you and Christ need to have a relationship. You need your individual with him, but you have to have one together with him. If he's not the source of your marriage, then you're going to continue to have you're not going to, things are going to seem insurmountable. So go back to the basics. Communication skills. We have to learn how to approach one another. We have to remember that my spouse, no matter how bad it is, my spouse is not my enemy. The conflict is the enemy, and our job is to attack it together, not attack each other, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll do this. We'll fall into these traps of marriage. We start turning on each other. Instead, we should be turning with each other towards that conflict, and already have the end in mind. We love each other unconditionally. So we know at the end, we're going to get through this conflict and we're going to be okay. And so start with that framework, that we're going to make it because we love each other. We want the best for each other. We want the best for the marriage. So we pray, we approach each other in love, and we walk through it. If you do it that way, you're going to get through anything together,
Yeah.
That
is so good.
And then we like to say too, Jess, right? Like that, like marriage is a beautiful mess. It's a beautiful mess. It's beautiful and it's messy, but we never want to go, and we should never go looking for conflict. We never want to create conflict.
Yeah.
We'll do it sometimes, but on the flip side, when conflict happens, we should never be afraid of it. We should be afraid of nothing, because if we walk through it together, that mess is also, God will redeem that, and that will become something beautiful now.
Yeah.
Just like what we experience in our own walk with him, we can experience the same thing in a marriage. The messes can become something beautiful if we invite the Lord in and allow him to redeem it.
That is so good. I feel like we could just keep going and going. You're just this fount of wisdom and encouragement.
Well,
and you have such a calming spirit. Like,
you're so sweet.
You're just wonderful to listen to. So listeners, I hope you're enjoying Steve as much as I am. We're almost out of time. So to kind of wrap things up, what did I miss? What is something maybe that God is laying on your heart, a final challenge or bit of hope or encouragement, or anything at all?
I did not have this prepared because I didn't know you were going to ask me the question. So this is off the cuff. When you were answering the question, I said a quick prayer, and this is what the Lord put on my heart. Remind people that the enemy's motive is to divide and conquer, is to separate you and make you feel like you are alone, and that there is no hope and there is no help. Because, this is the greatest tragedy, right? When we start to slip into despair, we lose sight. But there is always hope. There is always hope. And so when you start to feel like you're running out of hope, you find somebody, reach out, open up, just have the humility and the honesty to say, I am drowning. I am drowning. Can you help me? And so when it comes to freedom coaching, or any coaching, but certainly freedom coaching, that's what we want people to know. Like, the struggle is real. We get it. The Christian struggle is real. The walk is real. But you're not alone. There is help, and the Lord wants to rush in and be part of that. He will always. Just, have you ever had that feeling where you feel like you're in a room and there are no windows and no doors and there is no way out, and you just finally get to that place? It's a new bottom. You get to a place where you go, Lord, I've tried everything. I don't know what else to do. We've done the self-reliance thing. We got to break the self-reliance and go back to trusting in his providence. It's funny, right? Like, prayer should be the first thing we do, but it often ends up being the last thing we try. Okay, Lord, you got my attention. I'm at my rope's end. I see no way out. I'm running out of hope. Help. I surrender. And then, I never saw that window before. Where did that come from? Cry out for help. The Lord is always ready to bring hope. Always.
Whoa, that was amazing. I'm glad I asked that final question.
Thanks.
That was so perfect. Steve, thank you so much for being on today.
My joy to be with you. You're a gift. I know you're a gift to your listeners. You're a gift to me. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you.
What an amazing conversation with Steve. Just such powerful truth about like who we are created to be. And when we're caught in a pattern of sin or addiction, that doesn't define us, and that is not God's best for us, but it doesn't like scare God away. Nothing we can ever do could cause us to lose his love or his presence. I mean, he is for us, and he's not surprised by the bad decisions we make. He knew before time and still chose to love us and fight for us and die for us, and take our place. Yeah, so he is for us. He is for you. And I just want you to hear that and let that sink in today. If you are watching our YouTube channel, you'll see I had a little wardrobe change because we have our new Collected merch is now live on the website at collectedministries.org/goods. And I'll put a link to that below. But I am sporting our new Collected podcast hat with the embroidered logo there and our hoodless sweatshirt, or crew neck sweatshirt here that has the embroidery as well. And then I'm really excited about these sweatpants that have the logo on the back pocket, but they are so soft and cozy. So I'll put pictures of this all on Instagram as well. They actually should already be up. So check out our Instagram page at Collected Ministries, and you'll see all of the merch that we have. There's t-shirts and tank tops and all sorts of fun things available this year. So check that out. A portion of all the sales goes directly into the ministry fund and allows us to keep doing what we're doing. So if you need Christmas presents, please check out our merchandise shop. I had a lot of fun making these things this year. So I hope you're having a great week, and I can't wait to be back with you next time. So enjoy the holidays. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you out there. And I wouldn't do this without you. So thank you so much for continuing to come back and listen to the show. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Collected Podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you'd help spread the word. Check back here for new episodes dropping every other Thursday. You can follow along on social media at Collected Ministries.